Hello guys. In the last video we learned how to multiply rational expressions, and I mentioned that if you really understood how to multiply and simplify rational expressions, then dividing should be a very simple process, because the only difference between divide and multiply rational expressions is that you can rewrite a division in terms of a product. In fact, when you divide two fractions, dividing two fractions means multiply by the reciprocal. So once you rewrite the division of those rational expressions in terms of a product, then it becomes exactly like one of the previous problem. And so the concept we're going to use is this. Let's start with numbers. Imagine we have two fractions. So we want to divide two fractions. For example, 3/2 divided by, let's say, 6/8. Okay? Alright, so dividing two fractions means multiply by the reciprocal. Okay? So I'm dividing 3/2 by 6/8. This is equivalent of multiplying, so we go from a division to a product of 3/2 by the product with the reciprocal of 6/8. Reciprocal means we're going to flip numerator and denominator, so this is the same as 3/2 times 8 divided by 6. So now it becomes a product and we can simplify. So for example, 3 and 6 becomes 1 and 2 because they're both divisible by 3. And 8 and 2, 8 divided by 2 is 4, so 8 divided by 2 is 4, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. So we end up with 4/2, which is equal to 2. Okay, so this fraction, this division between fractions is going to simplify to 2. So we use the fact that the division of two fractions is equivalent to the product of the reciprocal, okay, the reciprocal of 6/8. So we pick up the first fraction, we multiply by the reciprocal of the second one, and then we simplify. So we're going to use this process for rational expressions. Okay, let's start with this problem. So here we want to divide 16n over 17, so that's the first expression, by 8n divided by 6. Alright, so dividing two expressions like this means multiply by the reciprocal. So now, first of all, you could write this differently too. You could write this as 16n divided by 17 over 8n divided by 6. This would be the equivalent, okay? So instead of the division sign, you can use the fraction line. But we don't need to convert into the fraction. So what we can do instead is remembering what we just did with numbers. So this division sign can be converted into a product. So just put a dot here. As long as we flip the numerator of the second fraction with the denominator. So this expression, we're going to flip numerator and denominator, and then we should be able to simplify. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep the 16n divided by the 17, and now we're going to multiply this by the reciprocal of 8n divided by 6, which is 6 divided by 8n. Okay, can we simplify this? Yes. We can n and n simplify as long as n is different than 0. 16 divided by 8 is 2, so this becomes 2, this becomes 1, and we are left with 6 times 2, which is 12 at the numerator, and 17 at the denominator. So we end up with just a fraction with a number. Okay, let's look at a different problem, problem number 2. So now we have 5/20 division divided by 5x divided by 3. 5x divided by 3. So dividing this means multiply by the reciprocal. So the 5/20 we're going to keep it, And the 5x and the 3 we're going to flip as long as we change the division sign with a product. So instead to write 5x over 3, we're going to write 3 divided by 5x. And now we simplify. 5 divided by 5 is 1. And we cannot simplify it further. The numerator is going to stay 3, and the denominator now is 20x. Okay, let's go to problem number 3. So now we have 4n divided by n minus 6. And we want to divide this by 4n divided by 8n minus 48. So remember, try to do these points by yourself now, okay? And then check with me. Okay, so we rewrite the first rational expression the way it is, 4n divided by n minus 6, and now instead of division we're going to multiply by the reciprocal, which is 8n minus 48 all divided by 4n. So now this becomes like a multiplication of rational expressions. Notice how 4n and 4n simplify, and then it may still simplify. Notice that there is a greatest common factor between 8n and 48, which is 8. So we can factor out 8, and then inside parentheses we're left with n minus 6. And then we're going to divide this by n minus 6. So we can simplify the n minus 6, so your final answer is just 8. Okay, let's see a different problem. Okay, so let's divide the 6 by 28x plus 4 and divide by 6 by 35x plus 5. Okay, so we are going to keep the first rational expression, 20x plus 4, and now we're going to multiply by the reciprocal of the second one, which is 35x plus 5, and then divide by 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1, and then 35x plus 5, we have a greatest common factor, which is 5, and then 5 times what is 35, which is 7x, and 5 times what is 5, which is 1. And now we're going to divide this by what? Well, what's the greatest common factor between 28x and 4? So we can factor out the 4, and then we have a times, again, 7x plus 1. And now 7x plus 1 and 7x plus 1 will simplify, so we end up with 5 divided by 4. Okay. Now let's take a look at something a little bit more challenging. Okay. So we have b squared minus 2b minus 15 over 8b plus 20. And now we want to divide this by 2 over 4b plus 10. Okay, so what should we do? We will write the first rational expression. So b squared minus 2b minus 15. So we keep this over 8b plus 20. And now instead of dividing, we multiply by the reciprocal, which is 4b plus 10, and then divide by 2. Alright, let's see what we can simplify now. Notice how we have a quadratic expression in this case. So we want to find two numbers whose product is negative 15 and whose sum is negative 2. And you should identify these two numbers as negative 5 and positive 3. So this becomes b minus 5 times b plus 3. Divide by, well, look at 8b plus 20. We have a greatest common factor of 4. So this becomes 2b, because 4 times 2 is 8, plus 4 times what is 20? It will be a 5, times, now look at the 4b plus 10, we have a greatest common factor of 2, and then we have 2b plus 5, and then all of this is divided by 2. Well, there is a lot we can simplify here. We can simplify these two, but we can also simplify this 2b plus 5 and this 2b plus 5. So what we are left with is b minus 5 times b plus 3, and then all divided by 4. Okay, let's work two additional problems. Alright, so here we have 6p plus 27 divided by 18p squared plus 36p, and then we want to divide this by 16p plus 72, and then divide by 2p plus 4. Okay, so let's rewrite the first one, which is 6p plus 27 divided by 18p squared plus 36p, and then multiply by the reciprocal, which is 2p plus 4 over 16p plus 72. Okay, what can we do in this case? Well, let's take a look at 6p plus 27. What's the greatest common factor? Now 27 is not divisible by 6, but it's divisible by 3. So 3 should be the greatest common factor. And then we get to 2p plus 9. And then between 18p squared and 36p, the greatest common factor is 18p. So times p plus 3, because 3 times, p plus 2, because 2 times p would be 36p, and then times between 2p and plus 4, there is the greatest common factor of 2 times p plus 2, and then we have a 16 and 72, and let me see, well, 16, 32, 48, and 72, so we should get a 4 as the greatest common factor. So this will leave me, well, actually 72 is divisible by 16, right? 16 times 4, no, let me see, let me use 1 second calculator to make sure I don't make mistakes. So we have a 72 divided by 16 is 4.5, so we can factor out, so 72 is not divisible by 16, right? So we need to factor out the 4. So we can factor out the 4. Actually an 8, sorry, an 8. Yeah, this should be an 8. So what we get is 8 times 2p plus 7. No, sorry, plus 9. Because 9 times 8 is 72. Okay, so at this point, these 2p plus 9 and these 2p plus 9 will simplify. P plus 2 and p plus 2 simplify, and then we are left with 2 and 8. Well, this can be simplified. This becomes a 1 and this becomes a 4. Okay, and then the numerator now is a 3 and the denominator will be 4 times 18. Now we know 18 times 2 is 36, so it should end up to be 72p. And now we can also simplify this 3 with 72, because 72 divided by 3 is 24, so we end up with 1 over 24p. So this is the final, so there are lots of simplification going on here, okay? So 1 over 24p. Alright, so let's work one last problem, and then from here you should be able to complete the Alex assignment on this topic, which is divide the rational expression. So the last problem is 3x squared minus 25x minus 18, and then all divided by 27x plus 18, and then divided by 5x minus 3 over 5x squared minus 33x plus 18. Alright, so again, I suggest you try this by yourself. Okay, let's see. Let's rewrite the first one. 3x squared minus 25x minus 18 divided by 27x plus 18, and now instead of division we have a product, 5x squared minus 33x plus 18, and then divide by 5x minus 3. Okay, can we factor out this? Well, let's see. It's not immediate, we need to think one moment. Alright, so let's see if we can simplify the first one. So the first one we have a product which is 3 times 18. So we have two numbers whose product is 54, so negative 54, and whose sum is negative 25. Yes, it would be negative 25. So, what are these two numbers? Well, you don't need to necessarily guess. We can also do this in a systematic way in finding these two numbers. So if you want to do this in a systematic way, this is what you do. You write down 54, and then you find all possible factors of 54 until you find two numbers whose sum is negative 25. So start from 1. 1 times 54, right? That it cannot work. Then you go to 2, and 2 times 27. Can we make it 25? Yes. So 2 and 27 should work, right? In particular, 27 should be the negative one and 2 should be the positive one. Now keep in mind that I cannot write x minus 27 and x plus 2 because there is a leading coefficient of 3 in this case. So we need to use the long process, which means I need to rewrite this as 3x squared minus 27x plus 2x minus 18. And then we underline once the first 2 and twice the last 2. The greatest common factor between the first 2 is 3x. So times x minus 9 plus 2 times x minus 9. So this becomes x minus 9, which is the greatest common factor, times 3x plus 2. Okay? Alright, so the first numerator is x minus 9 times 3x plus 2, and then divide by, okay, so here we have 27x plus 18 with the greatest common factor of 9. So times 3x plus 2 times, so 5x minus 3, there is nothing we can do, but let's see now if we can factor out this numerator. Okay? Alright, so here we have 5 times 18, which is 90. So 10 times 180 is, so 10 times 18 is 180, so 5 times 18 is 90. And then negative 33 is the sum we want to find. Again, we can do this in systematic way. So let's start with, well, 90 is what we want to factor out. So we have 1 times 90. It cannot work because we need to get a sum of negative 33. And then we can divide by 2. 2 and 45 will not work. How about 3? 3 and 30. Yeah, that looks to work. In particular, we need to have both of them negative, so negative 3 and negative 30. And again, we need to use the long process. So 5x squared minus 3x minus 30x plus 18. First two have a greatest common factor of x times 5x minus 3. And then the last two have a greatest common factor of 6 times 5x minus 3. So what we get from here is 5x minus 3 times x minus 6. So this becomes the numerator. So now we have 5x minus 3 times x minus 6. What can we simplify? Well, this and this will simplify to 1. 3x plus 2 and 3x plus 2 simplify to 1. So we are left with x minus 9 times x minus 6 divided by 9. Okay, so I hope this process makes sense to you. And then what we're going to do next is add and subtract rational expression.